When you're battling major depression, treatment can often feel like a marathon. It's long, it can be expensive, and it's just plain demanding. But what if there were a faster path to relief? A recent study did a head-to-head comparison of the standard treatment with a newer, accelerated approach, and the results could be a real game changer.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter for both patients and doctors. Can we find a depression treatment that is not only effective, but also efficient? In this explainer, we're going to break down the real-world evidence that tackles that exact question.
So, here's our plan. First, we'll talk about the current standard treatment and its challenges. Then we'll introduce the new protocol that was put to the test. After that, we'll dive right into the results, comparing how well they worked and how fast. Then we'll look at the impact on patients, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with the big take-home message.
Okay, so let's start by setting the stage. We need to understand the current standard of care for this type of treatment, and frankly, the hurdles that come with it.
The treatment we're talking about is called repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, or rTMS for short. It's a well-established, non-invasive technique that uses magnetic fields to stimulate nerve cells in the brain. It's become an absolutely vital tool for patients who haven't responded well to medication.
But, and it's a big but, the standard protocol is a major commitment. We're talking about daily sessions, 5 days a week for 4 to 6 weeks. For anyone trying to manage a job, a family, and the symptoms of depression itself, that is a huge logistical and personal burden.
And that time commitment brings a very real financial cost. In a self-pay healthcare system like the one where this study took place, each session costs about $150 out of pocket. That adds up to thousands of dollars over a full course of treatment.
So, with those challenges in mind, researchers have been looking for a better way. And that brings us to this head-to-head comparison with a newer, much faster protocol.
The data we're looking at comes from a large study at Taipei Veterans General Hospital, published in the Asian Journal of Psychiatry. What's so valuable here is that they analyzed real-world data from 273 patients. This isn't a perfect, sterile lab environment. This is how these treatments actually perform in a clinical setting.
So, the Challenger protocol is called Prolonged Intermittent Theta Burst Stimulation, or piTBS. Think of it as a newer, more efficient version of rTMS. It uses a really unique pattern of stimulation. These short, high-frequency bursts, which scientists believe can produce the same therapeutic brain changes just in a fraction of the time.
Now, if you look at the technical specs, you can see just how different they are. Notice two key things. First, piBTBs uses a much lower stimulation intensity. And second, look at the time. A whole piBTB session is done in just under 10 minutes, compared to almost 20 for standard rTMS.
Okay, so we have a faster, lower-intensity protocol. That sounds great, but the million-dollar question is, did it actually work as well? Let's dive into the results.
Let's start with the final score. When all was said and done, you can see the response and remission rates were very comparable. In fact, piTBS was slightly higher on both counts. But, and this is the important part for the science, the difference wasn't statistically significant. So the takeaway here is that by the end of treatment, both methods were equally effective.
But this is where the story gets really compelling. While the final destination was the same, the piTBS protocol got patients there so much faster. This chart is the key. It shows the response rate after only 10 sessions. A remarkable 57.1% of piTBS patients had already responded. That's the dark bar. Compare that to just 34.8% in the standard rTMS group. This early difference is huge, and it is statistically significant.
And that rapid response directly translated into a shorter overall treatment. On average, patients in the piTBS group needed significantly fewer sessions to get results. Just over 12 sessions, compared to about 14.5 for the standard group.
So we know it works just as well and gets results faster. But what does that actually mean for the patient experience day to day? Let's look at the impact on tolerability, cost, and time.
Remember that lower stimulation intensity we talked about earlier? Well, here's the payoff. Patients in the piTBS group reported significantly less local pain at the stimulation site. Only 12.5% of them felt it, compared to nearly a quarter of patients in the standard rTMS group. That makes the treatment much more tolerable.
Now let's talk money. That shorter treatment course has a direct and powerful financial impact. The study estimated that using the piTBS protocol could save a single patient up to $3,000 over their course of treatment.
To put that another way, for patients paying out of pocket, this can mean a reduction in their medical costs of up to 2/3. That's a staggering difference.
And maybe most importantly, it saves what is often a patient's most precious resource, their time. We're talking about up to 20 fewer days that they have to schedule appointments and travel to the hospital. That is a massive reduction in the disruption to someone's life.
So, after looking at all this real-world evidence, what's the bottom line? What's the crucial point we should all take away from this?
The take-home message here is incredibly clear. For patients with major depression, piTBS doesn't just look like an alternative, it looks like a more efficient, tolerable, and cost-effective option. It delivers the same powerful results as the standard of care, but it does it faster, with significantly less pain, and at a fraction of the cost in both time and money.
And this leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought. In our search for better treatments, this study really suggests that efficiency might be just as critical as efficacy. A treatment that is easier for patients to access, to tolerate, and to complete could ultimately be the one that helps more people find the relief they're looking for.